Hello, my name is Alicia. I am a Reiki master, a parts work practitioner, and a healing coach. And I love to help in any way I can to bring light into darkness or hope into people's lives. Today, I'm going to be talking about intrusive thoughts and positive thinking that doesn't become toxic positivity. Let's get started. Give me just 1 second. Here we go. Okay, that should be better. Okay, so I've titled this Managing Our Thoughts. And for many of my faith that I grew up in, there is a scripture that came to mind. And if you're not a Christian or not of my faith, that's okay. I just want you to ponder this and kind of ask yourself questions about this. And it comes from a book called The Doctrine and Covenants. And part of the scripture says, "And let virtue garnish thy thoughts unceasingly." So as I'm going through this presentation, I'd like you to ask yourself, why would God or a creator or a universe or a source ask us to potentially let virtue garnish our thoughts, and why unceasingly? As I go through this presentation, I'm going to start by talking about why managing thoughts is important. I'm going to talk about positive thinking and avoiding toxic positivity. And then I'm going to move to intrusive thoughts and tools for managing our own thoughts. So why managing thoughts is important. What you think about, you will see. Imagine you just bought a new car. Maybe it's a bright yellow Volkswagen Beetle, a bug. You rarely, if ever, noticed any other car like this, but suddenly you are seeing one at the grocery store, in line at the drive-thru, or zooming down the freeway. Suddenly there are yellow bugs everywhere. Now, I've seen this before, and I'm sure all of you have experienced this if you've had a vehicle of your own. Maybe it's a silver minivan, and it seems like all of a sudden everyone else has the same color, same make, same model, and you see it everywhere you go. This is actually an example of how our minds will search for evidence. Our mind isn't necessarily searching for truth or justice. It is searching for evidence of what you are actually thinking about. The more you think about and notice something, the more it will naturally appear to show up more and more in life around you. Thoughts also drive action. Our thoughts are important because they lead us to our actions. Of course, we always have a choice. I believe in free agency, and we all can choose to do whatever we want potentially. But if we keep thinking about, say, a tasty, delicious donut, and we can't give ourselves a good reason or logic, any reason why we shouldn't go ahead and indulge in that donut, we are likely to find ourselves arranging for and eating that donut. Likewise, if we keep entertaining a thought about not being good enough, our mind will start to look for evidence that we are, in fact, not good enough. Which leads me to positive thinking. A positive mindset. Someone who was regularly in my life tended to be what I call a negative Nelly. They could turn everything into a negative and point out the darkness in a light-filled conversation. In their experience, everything was doomed to fall apart eventually. Everyone was bound to disappoint you at some point, and if something can go wrong, it will. Guess what? That kind of attitude attracts things to go wrong, people to disappoint you, or things to constantly fall apart. We attract what we think about. We create new realities just by looking for things one way instead of the other way. If you want a new reality, start by thinking about things in a positive light. The more we live with a positive mindset, the easier it becomes to find the silver linings in and around us. It doesn't mean the whole situation is silver. It just means we can take a moment to recognize the tiny blessings or goodness in the situation anyhow. And that might not happen right away. Some situations just suck. And it takes a while before we can wrap our minds around what might be a silver lining or what we can view as a silver lining and what we learned in the situation. But here are a couple of ways to start having a more positive mindset. Try a gratitude journal. Life doesn't have to be great to be able to write down 3 things you are grateful for each day, 3 silver linings. I tell people when I started my first serious gratitude journal, I really struggled. I could only think of things like my warm bed or my shower or, basic necessities in life, and that didn't seem enough. It is enough. It is a perfect place to start if that's the best you can do. And you can write more than 3 things, and you can practice this more and more. But the more you view these things as silver linings or blessings or positive things that are in fact in your life, the more you will see positive things showing up in your life. And the more you can grow that positive mindset. Another thing, when something bad happens, ask yourself questions. Did I learn something? Did I learn more about myself? Did I handle it the best way I knew how at that moment? Now, I think it's important to talk about avoiding toxic positivity. Toxic positivity or false positivity is undermining the pain of others by insisting someone consistently feel grateful, optimistic, and look on the bright side of things, even in the face of hardship, implying that we should not allow ourselves or others to feel difficult emotions. And that's what makes it toxic. When we don't allow ourselves or others to feel what we actually are feeling, we don't truly see ourselves. We don't truly allow ourselves to exist and be who we are. We're essentially abusing ourselves and others by dismissing them. Now, I found this meme and I just loved it because it says there's this girl and she's at the end of this like dock, looking at someone who's clearly drowning and reaching for help and saying, focus on the positive in this situation. Like, come on, just focus on the positive. But obviously, she's not seeing that it's in the middle of help. Some toxic statements that you might hear or say to yourself are things like, oh, just look on the bright side. Just let it go. Think happy thoughts. Someone else has it worse. It's not so bad. You should just move on. When we say these toxic statements to others, we ignore them and we choose not to truly see them. When we say these things to ourselves in search of our silver linings, we choose to ignore our true selves. Again, that's where things become toxic. To truly find real silver linings, we must first accept that the silver is only a part of the experience. Sometimes it may be a very small part, and sometimes it might even just be a byproduct of the experience, as in something we learn from, well, having a negative experience. Take the time to examine with truth and authenticity, then objectively find the true silver lining, or at least the lesson learned. Things that are unseen are unhealed. Some truly positive thoughts that you can work on for yourself. It's okay to feel. My trauma and my experiences are valid. Crying is a great way to let things out. This is really hard right now. I can give myself some compassion. It isn't humanly possible to stay positive all of the time. What one can be instead is responsible. Responsible for your own thoughts, actions, and behavior. Positivity is the outcome of that process, not the input. I found this quote and I just love it. It says a positive mindset is not a denial of negative feelings. It's a commitment that no matter what you feel or how you feel, you will meet those feelings with compassion, nurture, and practical care. It's you believing in you and supporting your well-being. Now let's talk about intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are any unwanted thought, idea, image, or scenario that pops into your mind out of nowhere. These thoughts can often be bizarre, violent, terrifying, or sexual. However, they can also be simply inconvenient, distracting, or untrue. All of these can be true of intrusive thoughts. The truth is, everyone has intrusive thoughts, although people who struggle with things like OCD, anxiety, depression, or ADHD will often experience more and or more intense intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts can sound like a lot of things. Maybe some of these will sound familiar to you. What if I'm wrong? What if I can't do this? What if my baby stops breathing? What if I fall off this edge? What if I fall asleep and drop my baby right here? What if I die while I am away from my kids? What if my kid dies while with the babysitter? I bet my partner doesn't really like me. They're not really your friends, they just take pity on you. They think you're crazy. God isn't really there. God doesn't care enough about your stupid little problems. You think you know so much, but you're just faking it. I'm in the wrong career. I'm an imposter. I can't really do this. If a catastrophic disaster hits my kids' school, what would I do? You could slip and fall down these stairs. It'd be easy to step out in traffic. Do you think these scissors are sharp enough to cut a finger? Now that we've gone over some examples of intrusive thoughts, I want you to know there are a bajillion types of intrusive thoughts, and they might be unique to you, and they might be things that you feel embarrassed about and do not want to share. And obviously, I'm not going to make you share them with me, but it's important to recognize again that everyone has intrusive thoughts and that some people suffer more from them and or intensely from them than others, but there are tools for managing your own thoughts, and we're going to go over that right now. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is to maybe get curious. Spend some time observing what you think about, even just for 5 minutes. Maybe set a goal for 5 minutes a day. Maybe journal about these things. What kinds of thoughts pop into your mind? How do they feel? Do they bring up any emotions? Are these thoughts true? Do I enjoy these thoughts? Do I feel bad or upset at myself for having these thoughts? Do I get an emotional high or maybe a kick out of having these thoughts? Do these thoughts provide any insight into my inner psyche? They tell me something about how I think? And are these my own thoughts? Now, sometimes our thoughts come from society, from culture, from our family of origin, from our religion, or from books or things that we think we need to think. So it is a good idea to get curious about where these thoughts might be coming from, what they bring up in you, what emotions you actually feel, and maybe what stories you're telling yourself about these thoughts or what they mean about you. How we react to our own thoughts determines how we will pave our own neural pathways, meaning the more attention we pay to a thought, the more likely we will accept, believe, and experience more of that thought and similar thoughts. Our brains will literally look for evidence of that thought because we are paying attention to it. What we believe becomes true. However, the reverse is also true. What we resist persists, meaning if we don't believe the thought, it might continue to plague us because we fight it. Sometimes we have to give it a moment of our attention, get curious about it, maybe even show it love or compassion, and then we are more ready to let it go. A lot of times people find that if they try to stuff down their thoughts or just shove them far away or let shame take over, these thoughts will just get worse and worse. So sometimes that actual resistance is what makes it stick around more or get worse. I want you to try thinking about this idea. Imagine that each thought that enters your mind is a feather. You catch these feathers easily all the time. Your mind is constantly full of these thoughts that are feathers. But this time, take a moment to observe the feather. Is this feather worn, covered in barnyard muck, or just plain ugly? Or is the feather clean, bright, and beautiful? Are you going to keep this feather? It's your choice. You can hold on to anything you want for as long as you want. You can keep all the thoughts you want. Or are you going to toss it as quickly as it came and wash your hands because you just don't want it? Are you going to hold on to it for a bit, acknowledging the unique characteristics of this particular feather and where it came from? Are you going to love that it showed up for you and then watch as it floats down after you toss it? Maybe you're going to tell it, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for giving me something to worry about for a moment and take a little moment to think about my safety. Are you going to keep this feather and start a collection of beautiful, wonderful feathers? The possibilities are literally endless. You can do with this feather anything you want to. But remember, this feather is one of your thoughts. What you keep will start to determine what kind of collection you are making in your mind. Be sure you are collecting the thoughts you actually want to keep. Some of my favorite ways to release an unwanted thought. The first one is called dump journaling. You get out a piece of paper and you just write for about 20 minutes. You just write every random thought that enters your mind. The cat walked in the room. Why is my foot itchy? Every single thought. But as you're writing it, don't go back and read over what you're writing. Ignore every single word that you've written previously and just write it all out. Write. Again, for probably about 20 minutes. And then you're going to take the piece of paper, throw it in the garbage, and wash your hands. You're done with it. You don't need it. Dump journaling. The next one is scribbling. If you are not familiar with allergies, that I highly recommend checking her out. She has a book and also a YouTube video on scribbling, and she explains this very well. But basically, you're going to imagine this thought or anything that's bothering you really as a ball of energy. Sometimes I can see this as like a green ball of like floating smoke or something. And you just imagine that energy is being broken with a hammer. Smash that into smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. Soon it becomes dust. And you imagine that dust floating through your body and out of your arm as you scribble on a piece of paper. And you just scribble and scribble and scribble until you either feel like it's released, or if you watch Ali's video, she'll show you that you can kind of get this ellipse that turns empty as you scribble. But the point is to move your body transmutes the energy and help you release the energy of that thought. Or the next one that I really enjoy for releasing something is a slam ball. Basically, you find an exercise ball, like a weighted ball or something, and you're trying to get your body moving. Exercise can be highly effective. So some people like to go for a run or lift weights or something. I love a slam ball or even a punching bag. I can throw that slam ball and imagine that my thought is literally exiting my body and just get mad or whatever I need to feel and throw that thought at the ground over and over again as I throw the slam ball at the ground. So go ahead and give those a try. Some other ways to release unwanted thoughts that sometimes persist, or we get into a persistent or a cyclical thought pattern, which happens sometimes with intrusive thoughts. These become so persistent that they become a part of our thinking all the time, and they become a pattern, or they start to get cyclical. And despite our best efforts, we can't seem to get rid of a particular thought pattern. Now, these can be stuck for many reasons. You can have a good energy block going on. And so anything that can help you get to the bottom of maybe why you're having this thought or get your body to accept a new thought can be deeply healing. Some things that I would recommend are tapping or emotional freedom technique. This can be highly effective to help you change out some thoughts for new ones. Another thing is a parts work session. And I personally do parts work. I'm a parts work practitioner. I like to do Christ-based parts work because I like to involve my Savior Jesus Christ, as I am a Christian, in helping me to solve a lot of things, but especially any thoughts that might be coming up, because we can explore those and see if there are inner parts of you that might be attached to why you're thinking this, or have had experiences that need to be fully acknowledged before we're willing to let go of these thought patterns. Something else, of course, that I would recommend if you're feeling really stuck in a cyclical thought pattern or really negative thought pattern that you just can't seem to release on your own is, of course, counseling or therapy with someone who can help you maybe understand, like, if this is a generational thought, or if it's something that comes from a culture or a family of origin that you just simply want to release but can't seem to. I definitely recommend exploring some of these options, although in the meantime, you can do some of the tools we talked about, like the dump journaling and the scribbling. But again, you can always reach out. I myself am a parts work practitioner. I also do Reiki, which can also sometimes help with some of these if they're stuck in your body. But it is possible to get out of these patterns. Now, where you can find me if you want to reach out, I am currently on Facebook. You can find me at Heal with Alicia, or I'm also on Instagram with the hashtag at Heal with Alicia as well. And if you're not into the social media, you can always email me at healwithalicia.idaho@gmail.com. I do most of my sessions via Zoom. So that means we can do distant sessions, whether that be parts work or Reiki. And I hope you thoroughly enjoyed my thoughts and discussion here on intrusive thoughts and positive thinking. I really think that it's important to think about what we're thinking about. And I've seen such huge shifts in my own life by paying attention. I by no means am perfect. That I'm not telling you these things because I've got it down. I'm telling you these things because I've learned a lot and have come a long ways, and I still have a ways to go. So I hope this was helpful. And if you liked this video, please share, please like my channel here on YouTube, and hope to see you later. Bye.